Welcome to BoxTheBase, your home for boxing and baseball, and we have to talk about this weekend of boxing that we just had because we had the main event of Tank Davis, aka Gervonta Davis, versus Lamont Roach, and honestly, the whole card was pretty good. Um, and this is coming off of the weekend of February 22nd. So honestly, credit to PBC where it's due. It was a pretty good card. Does it stack up to what Saudi did? No, but it was still a pretty good card overall. I mean, the main event card started out with Yoenis Tellez versus J. Rock Williams, which is honestly a pretty good fight for Tellez because he was coming in, stepping up in competition, and he put a good performance. I mean, maybe he didn't look as strong as his previous performances, but he definitely put up a really good performance, I think. And I mean, maybe J Rock is on his way out. Who knows what's up with him? But he was a former unified champion, so that's a good win for Tellez on his record. And then after that, we had Puello versus Sander Martin, which was back and forth all night in that ring for them two. And Puello pulled out a good win versus Sander Martin. I mean, it looked close. Some people thought it was a draw. I personally agree that Puello won. But honestly, it was just a very, very, very close fight. So we had two really good cards, fights to open up the card. And then we had Riles versus Gary Russell. I honestly had Riles winning this. I thought he was going to come in a lot stronger. And honestly, I think he was probably the most disappointing fight of the night because he just got taken to school. I mean, some people had it 12-0. I don't think I had it that much of a landslide for Gary, but it was just like Riles had no chance in there, especially in the late round. It looked like he was going to get stopped in certain rounds. He's lucky he didn't get stopped. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's back to the drawing board for Riles. You got to figure out something there. I think he's still a tough fight for a lot of these guys at 140, but Gary was coming off of a loss too, and he just showed that he's still, a capable fighter at this division. And I think he would give anyone a tough fight in this division at 140, or if he wants to fight any of the top guys at 130 that are willing to go up. I mean, he's a test for anybody, and he's not somebody to be overlooked because he's just, he proved it against Riles. A lot of people were counting him out versus Riles, and he beat him convincingly. I mean, there was points in there where I was just like, what is Riles doing? He's gone. I thought he was going to get knocked out. Like, there was 2-3 rounds where he was just getting beat up and he was getting caught hard. And I thought Gary was going to stop him. I mean, Gary really impressed. Riles is a good win on his resume, especially coming off of a loss and coming back to get in the win column. Very, 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 very good win. I think honestly the first three fights, Tejas, Puello, and Gary, those three winners had very strong performances and had very good wins. They were not fighting against weak opponents. I mean, Tejas, who beat J. Rock Williams, that's a very good opponent to have on his resume, especially as a very young fighter who was stepping up in competition to prove himself. And Puello, who beat Sander Martin. Sander Martin is somebody who was in there with Teofimo Lopez, guys like that, and he's a good win. He's a good win. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And Riles versus Gary was probably the most 50-50 fight of this whole card. And honestly, I think um, Gary really proved himself because a lot of people doubted him, especially after his last loss. But he really just put a great win against Riles. And Riles, I mean, I think he just got bested. That's it. Styles make fight, and Gary's style was not made for him to win. That's how I see it. And then we talk about the main event, Tank versus Lamont Roach. There was a lot of talk leading up to this. I mean, let's take it back to the first press conference we had on this fight, where Tank was quoted saying that he wanted to retire after this year, and he didn't have like any of his coaches there, like especially Calvin Ford, is it? I think. But man, you didn't have Calvin in there. Come fight night, Calvin wasn't even his main coach in the ring. Um, I believe it was Butch Hartman. I don't know if I'm getting that name right, but somebody can tell me afterwards. I forget who his trainer was, his main trainer, but Calvin wasn't, and like a lot of people have said it. If you check Twitter and stuff, that he just wasn't paying attention to anything Calvin was telling him. I don't know if him and Calvin have had some sort of disconnect. I mean, Calvin has played a really big part in Gervonta Davis's career, and it's just like very interesting that he's all of a sudden having like a disconnect there with him. Maybe they're just not aligning on the same page. Maybe Davis is thinking of other things, and Calvin, is thinking of like they're just completely on different pages and can't agree on things right now. I don't know, but on top of that, Davis is also showing up on like late to a lot of these press conferences, is what I noticed. I mean, he was still there for like his moments, when it got to like the main event, some of these press conferences, but he just wasn't really there. Like it's mentally, he seemed checked out, and in the fight, it kind of looked like that. Because Roach, in my opinion, was winning a lot of the early rounds. Um, and just talking about Roach, he really came in a lot stronger, like winning a lot of those early rounds. Tank is known to be a slow starter, but I think he was extra slow this time around. And Roach was a lot tougher and stronger than I thought. Like he wobbled Tank in one of these rounds. I mean, he was just a lot stronger and a lot tougher than I really expected. I was counting him out. I really thought Tank was gonna go in there and make a statement and just come out hard and aggressive and try to knock him out, but he didn't. Tank really didn't go in there to try and make a statement, to try and win, to try and. I mean, it was just that like it didn't feel like he went in there to win, and that's where I kind of don't understand it with Tank completely. Like he didn't go in there to seemingly win. It didn't seem like he was all mentally there. I don't know. I mean, now I'm starting to believe the retirement talk a lot more. I wasn't believing it before, but now I am. And Roach, you got to give him all the credit because he was going up in weight, came in at the 135, while Tank came in at 133. He looked like the bigger man in the ring, and he really gave Tank a fight. Wobbled him, had him. He caught him clean a lot of like with a lot of good power punches, and was really keeping him honest. And he was taking some of Tank's power shots too. Like he was walking through them almost. It felt like. Not all of them, but he was kind of like just kept moving forward and kept walking through a lot of Tank's shots, which is very impressive by Roach. I really did not have him doing any of it. I had him getting stopped, like a lot of people. I mean, that's what it is with Tank. He might be a slow starter. He might be losing a lot of the early rounds, but you just never know when he's gonna land those punches and knock you out. He has one punch knockout power. We've seen it in the past. Roach really has to be given credit for taking his shots, walking through them, wobbling him, and really keeping Tank honest. Because it looked like there was moments when Tank wanted to get aggressive, but he understood Roach's power and couldn't really do it. And on top of that, Roach was throwing off combinations at times. He wasn't just one punch here, one punch there. No, he was really throwing a lot of combinations and a lot of just power combinations too. And then the moment that was really odd was Tank taking a knee. Like he got hit by a jab, then a few seconds went by, and all of a sudden he takes a knee and kind of immediately gets up and runs to his corner. And his corner like towels him off. I've never seen that happen in a fight ever. I don't know if anyone can point out a moment that that's happened in a fight, but it was just like, what is going on in that? Like, what was that? And the ref, when Tank took the knee, the ref started um counting. Like he started his countdown, and then Tank gets up, so he's gonna stop his count and wait for Tank to put his gloves up. That's what refs do. And all of a sudden, Tank just runs to his corner and gets toweled off. And the ref, who is Steve Willis, tells him, "Hey, you can't do that." But he should have counted it as a knockdown. Like he took a knee after getting hit by a jab. He didn't get hurt by that jab. We all know that. But he took a knee, and then he ran to his corner. That should be a knockdown. Ref should have counted it as a knockdown. I don't understand what happened there. I usually like Steve Willis because he's a good ref. I mean, but that was just horrible, horrible refing by him. He started counting. He should have finished counting no matter what. That's what he should have done. There's no giving a warning there. There's no none of that. That's all I'm gonna say. And I think that's what ultimately led to a draw because the judges weren't gonna score that 10-8 because there was no knockdown. And it's very hard to get a 10-8 round unless one fighter single-handedly like dominates that round completely. It's hard to get a 10-8 round if you don't get a knockdown. It's damn near impossible. So I don't know. And then honestly, I thought it was gonna be a clean statement win by Tank, but now that we've seen what the fight looked like, I think we need a rematch. Roach deserves a rematch. I honestly thought he won. I'm gonna be honest. I thought he won. Like, there's no other way I'm gonna put it. He came out very strong, winning a lot of the early rounds that Tank gave away, and he won a lot of those late, like last 3 rounds late. And I mean, I don't know if it was Tank having an off night or Roach just proving that he was what he said he was. Because he talked a big game in these press conferences about how he's going to go in there, show people what he really is, be a tough opponent, and he did just that. So maybe that's just who he is. I understand that a lot of people want to like discredit Roach for losing to Jamal Herring, who Shakur Stevenson dominated, but maybe this is a case of styles make fight. Maybe Tank isn't mentally there anymore. I don't really know exactly what's going on with Tank. All I have to do is give props to Lamont Roach for putting a heck of a fight. He was a lot tougher than expected. And then we ended up with a decision which was a draw. I do not agree at all. Do I think Roach was robbed? Yes, because I don't think it was a draw. I think Tank lost. I think the judges. Here's what should have happened. The ref never counted in a knockdown, so people are going to say, okay, then Roach wins that round 10-9. What the judges should have done is what they could have done in any other moment. Just consider that round dominated by Roach and call it a knock. They don't have to call it a knockdown because they're not allowed to give out knockdowns. Only the ref in the ring is. But the judges should have just given it a freaking 10-8 round to Roach. And if they were asked about it, then they just say, hey, that should have been a knockdown, so we're going to call it a dominating round for Roach. That's it. And I think this is what it is. And the whole reason Tank said that he took the knee was because he had done his hair recently, and he had grease from hair products, and it was burning his eye. That's fine. Okay, understandable. But it's like, take the knee, take the knockdown, or something. I don't know. Like, yell to the ref. I don't know, something. Like, it was just a very odd sequence of events, and I think the ref, Steve Williams, dropped the ball. But we'll see, what happens moving forward. Hopefully they rematch, because that would be very, very big if they do rematch. And, the next question is Roach a threat at 135? Because after watching this fight, I think he could be. I'm not saying he would win, but there's a lot of guys that he could give a fight to and really make it interesting. I think Shakur Stevenson would beat him. I think Keyshawn Davis would beat him. But those are still good fights to be made. Roach proved his worth, and he showed who he really is and what he really is about. Tank and Roach need to rematch. I understand that we want Keyshawn Davis versus Tank Davis. We want Shakur Stevenson versus Tank Davis, but they need a rematch, because what took place in this fight was a robbery. That's what I think. That's truly how I think it is. And Tank either needs to figure out what's going on in his camp with him and Calvin, get him out of there, or simply fix his relationship with Calvin. Get on the same page with Calvin. And if he's going to be talking about wanting to fight 3 more times after Roach, or however many he said after Roach, he needs to get his mental back in the game. Because he started talking about retirement, and it started to look very, very, very bad for him in the ring. He did not look mentally there. He starting to look mentally checked out. If you saw Tank's reaction after the decision was announced and it was a draw, he looked fake mad. That's really what it is. I just don't get it. Like, he didn't have the same aggressiveness. He didn't have the same intensity. He didn't have the same. He was missing his edge. He was really missing his edge. And honestly, this needs to get figured out. So you guys let me know in the comment what you thought about this fight, how you guys viewed this fight, what you thought happened in this fight, about Tank taking a knee, about Roach's performance. Do you agree that it was a draw, or who do you think won? Do you think Lamont Roach was robbed? Let me know in the comments below. That'll wrap up this episode. Make sure to follow me on every single social media: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere. It will be linked in the description below. Make sure to subscribe here on YouTube. I will catch you guys later. Thank you all for tuning in, and comment your thoughts below on Lamont Roach versus Tank Davis. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to subscribe and tune in every week for your new episode of Box to Base.